LSU snaps their three-game skid, and the Pro Football Focus grades are in. We're recapping it. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Every week after LSU plays a football game, we look over what the folks at Pro Football Focus did and how they graded the Tigers, and we sort of recap it here for you. The caveat I always give is Pro Football Focus is a metric. It's not the metric. It's just something to consider when you take into account how the game went. And sometimes it sort of confirms what we saw. Sometimes it sort of disconfirms what we saw. There's a couple of instances of that today that we'll talk about a little bit. Start with the offense, go to the defense. I'll wrap up giving you just a full evaluation of Michael Van Buren, what Pro Football Focus thought of Van Buren's day. So we'd like to start with the top five and the bottom five. And if you look at the team as a whole, the top five, Harlem led the way. Not surprising. He was awesome. Mansoor Delane, Deshaun Spears, Caden, Durham, Xavier Thomas. That was your top five, offense or defense. If we just focus on the top five offensively for LSU, I did find it interesting because Harlem, of course, was your highest graded player with a 75.4. Juwan Johnson was next. Now, he only played 7 snaps, so for this exercise, he wouldn't qualify, but he was second. And then Caden Durham was third with a grade of 71.7. Your top 3 highest graded players were your 3 running backs. Naturally, Frank Wilson is your running backs coach, who's now your head coach. Alex Atkins, an offensive lineman by trade, who's calling the plays. For the first time all season, LSU ran it more than they threw it. 37 rushes, 33 passes. And lo and behold, look how it panned out. I think this underscores the fact that I've said probably for a year now. It's not that LSU can't run the football. It's that they didn't run the football. They didn't commit to doing it. Last year, the bottom 2 teams in the SEC in rushing offense were LSU and Georgia. This year, Georgia's top 5. Why? They have committed to running the football. And LSU on Saturday committed to running the football, and they ran it for over 150 yards, which was awesome. Harlem here late in his freshman season has really emerged. On Saturday against Arkansas, 12 rushes, 65 yards, and a touchdown. He would have had 2 touchdowns, by the way. It's fair to mention. At the last carry, he would have scored, but he went down, which allowed LSU to kneel the ball and run out the clock, and Arkansas never touched it again. His running grade was actually an 80.1. Great vision, obviously a super special player. And he forced 3 missed tackles. He gained 45 yards after contact. That was just phenomenal to see. As for Caden Durham, his running grade was a 70.3. Also forced 3 missed tackles, 50 yards after contact. So add that up. Durham 50 yards after contact, Berry 45 yards after contact, 95 yards rushing from those 2 backs came after contact. That's great balance. That's great vision. That's instinct. That's all the things that you knew were there internally for these guys. They just had to be given the opportunity, and thankfully they did. If you look at the rest of the offense, Xavier Thomas is the other player that we mentioned there. And Thomas filled up stat sheet. He had 6 catches for 80 yards. He threw a pass as well. That was incomplete. But with Aaron Anderson injured and limited in this game, Xavier is the guy who stood up, who stepped up and emerged with more opportunities. Now, if you look at the bottom, unfortunately, this is something that's also been sort of a regular occurring theme. here throughout these weeks of doing this, which is your offensive line generally is littered there at the bottom. Weston Davis, who was replaced, by the way, again, was your lowest graded player. West Weeks, Aaron Anderson, Tamarcus Cooley, Carius Kern, that was your bottom five. But if we're just focusing on the offense, Davis, Aaron Anderson, Kern, Chris Hilton in his 15 snaps, and then Trey'Dez Green, that was your bottom five there. Davis and Kern are probably the ones we need to focus on. I mentioned that sometimes the when I would say it's a metric, it's not the metric. It's just something to consider. Like Aaron Anderson being on there is like an asterisk, right? Anderson only played 16 snaps, and his run blocking grade was a 38.3. It was in 3 reps, and he's playing with a bum elbow. So Anderson didn't have a high score, but circumstances matter, right? He didn't play poorly. He had 3 run blocking reps that were bad reps, playing with a bum arm. So that's one of the things where I say you consider it. It's a metric, not the metric. It's just something to consider. It doesn't always confirm or disconfirm. There's nuance all the time. So again, that's why we give that caveat. But the offensive line was interesting because Weston Davis, again, was your lowest graded offensive lineman, and he did not start the game. So Davis had started every game up until this point, which he had played, starting at right tackle. On Saturday, remember, a week ago, they replaced Davis at Alabama with Ori Williams at right tackle. Well, in this game, Carius Kern started at left tackle, and Ori Williams started at right tackle. After the first half, they replaced Carius Kern, moved Ori Williams to left tackle, and then Weston Davis went in at right tackle. So that's how it played out in the game. Davis, his pass blocking grade was a 34. His run blocking grade was a 47. For Kern, his pass blocking grade was a 31. His run blocking grade was a 61. Keep saying this about Kern. He's a big, physical, strong dude. You let him get into people's pads, and he'll deliver for you. Josh Thompson was your highest graded offensive lineman at a 62.8. Braylon Morris, 62.1. Cohen Eccles is 61.3. Then Ori Williams is 60.9. So those 4 were all very consistent. It was the young tackles, Kern and Davis, that really let you down in this football game. And the other thing that I always mention is, as I look at the chart, if you're an everydayer, shout out, you've heard me say this, but the chart on PFF is color-coded, right? So dark blue is like when you get close to 100. Then it's like dark green. Then it gets lighter to light green. Then it's like yellows. Then as it starts to get darker toward orange and red, it's when it gets worse. So I always look at like where are the dark blues and where are the reds? Where's the really good and where's the really bad? Well, there's one dark blue, and it was Cohen Eccles' pass blocking grade of a 90.8, which was great to see. Eccles is a redshirt freshman at left guard, has taken that job from Paul Mabenga, and has played more than serviceably this year, hopefully with still a lot of room to grow. If you look for the red, like where was the bad, there were 3 grades in the 30s. It was Kern's pass blocking grade, Aaron Anderson's run blocking grade, we just talked about, then Weston Davis's pass blocking grade. Kern a 31, Davis a 34.9. You just had a couple of guys there, young players, have really bad days, which you hope gets better. Kern, 31 snaps at left tackle. He allowed a sack. He allowed a hurry. There's just no way around it, man. That your offensive tackle play has just not been good enough this year. And whoever is the coach next year is going to have a very interesting decision to make. Do you go into next season thinking, well, we got Kern and Davis and Williams, you got these young tackles, Chester, if you want to put him in that mix as well. You got him experience, so you roll with those guys, hoping they keep developing and improving? Or do you go into the transfer portal and say, I got to get proven tackles that can come in immediately and make us better at that spot? My opinion is you're in the portal era. Go get plug and play guys that can make you better and hope those guys improve. And if they push them and win a job, awesome. And if not, well, you've got proven starting power 4 caliber guys that can plug and play immediately, like you had with Josh Thompson and with Braylon Moore. It's no surprise. Your 2 best offensive linemen this year, all season, every week, have been your 2 transfers that are veterans that have played a ton. So utilize the portal again this year. All right, it is Locked on LSU. That's a quick look at the offense. We'll come back, look at the defense, and we'll wrap up looking at how Michael Van Buren's day went. We'll do that as we continue here. Locked on LSU, your team every day. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Take a look at the defensive side of the ball for LSU against Arkansas, and you're going to notice a theme as well, which is DBU is back. We talked about it a week ago, and when you look at the top 5 graded players defensively for LSU against Arkansas, C.J. Jackson was at the top of the list, but he only played 3 snaps. So if you're looking at qualifying players, Mansoor Delane, number 1, Deshaun Spears, number 2, Javen Toviano, number 3, only 4 snaps. DJ Pickett next with 34 snaps. Awesome. You know, when I look at the job that Blake Baker's staff did and his side of the ball did, I have to give a tremendous amount of credit, obviously, to Baker, but also to Corey Raymond with the way in which he's rebuilt this defensive backfield. And we will all look back now. And look, I did not agree with letting Corey Raymond go when Brian Kelly was hired. That was a major point of contention. I know a lot of the fan sentiment was Corey stopped recruiting and he had lost his fastball and so on. Clearly, that was not the case. You never forget how to teach guys to backpedal and flip your hips and high point a ball and be really aggressive. And Corey's the best at it. There's a reason LSU had the run they did as DBU, and it was Corey at the heart of all of it. And you look at what they've been able to do with him back, and my goodness, Saturday may have been the shining example of Corey Raymond's job that he's done and how Blake Baker has remade the defensive side of the ball. Arkansas came into this game as one of the top offenses in the country. Talon Green leads the country in yards per game from scrimmage. He finished the game with 11 completions. That's a season low. Talon Green, 11 completions, season low. He finished the game with 165 yards passing. Also, his low on the season. I mean, the 165 passing yards were 110 yards off of their yards per game passing average. And Talon Green did not throw a touchdown pass. That's just the second time all season he did not throw a touchdown pass. I look at the way that they have rebuilt this defense, and I understand a lot of it has to do with transfers, but that's identifying players. And yes, Mansoor Delane, AJ Halsey have been massive parts of this secondary's rebuild. But PJ Woodland's development from a 3-star to a starter who forced Ashton Stamps out of the program is incredible. DJ Pickett coming in as a 5-star freshman and playing the role he did this year. Again, I just mentioned Pickett was one of your top 5 graded defensive players with a 69.3. His coverage grade was a 68. His tackling grade was a 77. In run defense, he was a 65. I mean, Corey Raymond has done a magnificent job with this secondary. There's no denying that whatsoever. Delane got an interception, which was great to see. And I know he's going to be in the running for the Thorpe. He might well have a chance to win it. And I think he probably is the best defensive back in the country this year. But typically, those types of awards need a year of awareness, name recognition before you can win the award. We talked about like Grant Delpit, for example. Grant Delpit was the best defensive back in the country in 2018. 2019, he wasn't as good, large part because of injury, but he won the Thorpe in 2019. They threw at Mansoor Delane 5 times. He broke up 2 and he intercepted another. I mean, he was awesome. I mean, Mansoor Delane is just fantastic. Deshaun Spears was next, had an interception in the game. I'm sorry, he had the sack in the game, 73.1 tackling grade. He only played 20 snaps. He's been your dime defender, but man, he just keeps making plays. And I can't help but wonder, what this season would have looked like for a guy like Deshaun Spears in a different era where it wasn't the portal, where you didn't go get Halsey and Cooley. Because if you didn't have Halsey and Cooley, then Deshaun Spears would have been a starter this year at safety. And who knows what that would look like if he were getting 70 snaps a game instead of 20 in the dime package. But in any event, he's been fantastic when called upon this year, and Saturday against Arkansas was no different. Also, a hat tip to Jacobian Guillory. The sixth-year senior was in that mix as well. And if you exclude C.J. Jackson because of his 3 snaps and Toviano with his 4 snaps, and you just look at qualified players, Guillory would have been right there as your 4th highest graded defender. And obviously, the massive play that Guillory made was the goal line stand play from the 1-yard line when he went up over the top and corralled Taylon Green and pulled him backwards. So you love to see that from a guy in his 6th year still playing hard on a team where all the goals are gone for the season, and in that moment, still playing hard for LSU, representing the Tigers, representing his family. And I'd love to see that from Jacobian Guillory. When you look at the bottom 5 defensively for LSU, West Weeks was your lowest graded player because his tackling grade was a 29.3. So he missed, he made 4 tackles, but he missed 3 tackles in the game. So that missed tackle grade is what brought him down. Buddy Mathis played 14 snaps. He was your next lowest. Tamarcus Cooley, Dom McKinley, and then Shone Washington. So you look at your defensive linemen as maybe having a rougher day, and it makes sense, right? You were dealing with a running quarterback who, by and large, you did a pretty good job corralling. But this was a day where it really was your secondary winning matchups against those receivers and Taylon Green throwing the football. And I think that was reflected here in the grades. Now, the other giant story of the ballgame, of course, was Michael Van Buren getting his first career start, his first real extensive time at LSU. So we'll dive into a little bit here of what Pro Football Focus had to say about Van Buren's day. We'll do that to wrap up next year, Locked on LSU. It's your team every day. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, just a couple of taps, saw amazing deals. Talk about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. And honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. So Michael Van Buren made his first career start at LSU Saturday against Arkansas, and it was something that certainly the majority of the fan base wanted to see. There was a big eruption in Tiger Stadium when he was announced as a starter. If you're an everydayer, you've heard my feelings on this. I'm not anti-Michael Van Buren. I hate what's happened for Garrett Nussmeier, just on a human level. A guy who returned for his senior season and had all of the expectations of building on a season ago, and it just hasn't gone well from the tweak in fall camp, the injury, whatever you want to call it, the torso, to whatever degree that might have impacted him, re-aggravating that this week, the losses. He's just been pounded all season behind a bad offensive line, and it's just been a miserable year. There's no other way around it. And you don't always get the storybook ending in sports. But I also said on Friday after our Thursday night, after we learned that Nussmeier re-aggravated that torso, that this was the right decision to start Michael Van Buren for two reasons. You give Nussmeier the opportunity to rest and heal. Also, playing a limited Garrett Nussmeier wouldn't serve him or LSU in this game. And then it gives you a full game to evaluate Michael Van Buren. So now we have the opportunity to do that, having watched him play this full game. So Van Buren played 74 snaps for the Tigers. His overall PFF grade was a 69.7. His passing grade was a 65. His running grade was a 69. His run blocking grade was a 60. Let me see how many run blocking snaps. Let me see how many run blocking snaps Van Buren had. He had they say he had 24 run blocking snaps. I guess you do become a blocker whenever there's a run. But in any event, I think we all understand that Michael Van Buren was not out there to be a run blocker. But in any event, when we look at the day that Van Buren had, it is certainly a serviceable day. When you dig a little deeper into his numbers from the day, a couple of the higher level metrics. One of the things that I know has kind of been a criticism of the offense this year is the inability or unwillingness to push the ball downfield. And quite honestly, that didn't happen in this game either. There was only one pass all game that went 20 yards in the air, and that was the 34-yarder on the first play of the third quarter that was completed to Xavier Thomas, that 50-50 ball. I loved giving his guy an opportunity to go make a play, and Thomas rewarded him with it. There were, 9 passes in the 10 to 20 yard range. He was 3 of 5 in the middle of the field in that 10 to 20 range, 2 of 4 outside the right hashes for 24 yards. That was the touchdown to Bauer Sharp. He did not attempt to pass in the 10 to 20 yard range to the left side. At or behind the line of scrimmage, there were 11 passes at or behind the line of scrimmage. So 11 of the 33. So a third of his passing attempts were at or behind the line of scrimmage. And then 6 were within 0 and 10 yards. I'm sorry, 7. 6 up the middle and 1 to the left. That would have been sort of your screen short intermediate game. So again, overwhelmingly, the majority of the attempts were forgive me. I said 1. The one completion. They took 3 shots down the left sideline. There was the one, so the 20 yards. There was the 3 attempts. The one completion was the Xavier Thomas completion down the left sideline. So majority of your passes, 10, 11, 12, 8. So 18 of the 33 passes were inside of 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. And then another 9 were in the 10 to 20 range. So only 3 of the 30. So 30 passes were inside of 20 yards. Only 3 went beyond 20 yards. So that's one thing to consider is, and it's something we talked about last week. You can't change an entire offense in a week or 2 weeks with a new coach. Like what you do in fall camp, what you scheme is what you are. And a large part of that, I think, is Van Buren making good decisions with the football when things aren't there downfield to tuck it and run or to check it down. But again, that's something we saw Nussmeier do for the majority of the season. It's frustrating to watch because you want to see big explosive plays down the field. It's hard to materialize those. Turnover-worthy plays is something that PFF charts. They charted 2 turnover-worthy plays, and quite honestly, those were the 2 that we talked about. If you were here for our post game, it was it was his first pass attempt of the game on the 2nd and 7. The ball to the on the left side, it was almost intercepted, and then in the final drive where LSU got a field goal before half, after the PI set LSU up at the Arkansas 37, he took the deep shot down the left sideline. That's the one that was almost intercepted as well. So those were the 2 turnover-worthy plays, but in 33 pass attempts, 74 plays, protected the football. Otherwise, that was good to see. And then I know drops is something people are always interested in. There were 2 drops in the ball game. It was Berry and Brown and Harlem Berry both came in the first half. So, those are all things that you consider that are wrapped into the day and how it went. But it was a very serviceable day for Michael Van Buren on a day where LSU scored 23 points offensively. And I think what's important to have an intellectually honest conversation about evaluating the quarterback is if you're going to say, well, Garrett Nussmeier wasn't able to lead the team to score 25 against a Power 5 opponent or Power 4 opponent, you have to say the same here with Van Buren. And he was playing at home against, which was literally the worst offense in the SEC and one of the worst in college football, and you scored 23 points. And I've heard the argument, well, but Harlem Berry slid at the end and they would have gone over 24. That's true. And against South Carolina, Juwan Johnson fumbled at the goal line and Damian Ramos missed a field goal. That's 10 more points you would have had against South Carolina. Against Clemson, they had a touchdown to Barry and Brown taken off the board. I mean, we can play that game if you want to. The bottom line is the count is what it is. And you had a lot of opportunities in the game. And ultimately, this is just what your offense is. So I think we're less looking here at the result if you're looking at an evaluation and you're more looking to say, did you see enough in the skill set there to think, okay, there's enough there that this guy could be the starter next year that could lead you to championships? And that's a decision that this staff and the new coaching staff and front office will have to decide this offseason. But first, look at Michael Van Buren. It'll be really interesting to see if Nussmeier is able to go against Western Kentucky. If not, do we get a second extended look at Van Buren and hopefully start to see even more progress with him in these final couple of games, if in fact they are going to burn the red shirt and play Van Buren the remainder of the season. But that remains to be seen. And as it plays out, we'll certainly be talking about it right here on Locked On LSU. Hey, thanks so much for making this your first listen. And thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 podcast network, sports podcast network in the world. If you're on podcast, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. And be sure to let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day.